Well, it is 11 days until Christmas. If you're watching this on the day that it comes out, I think it's going to come out 1 week exactly before Christmas on the 18th. And so, if this was a true Christmas shopping video, this probably should have come out, 2 months ago or something like that, to take advantage of the gross commercialization of Christmas. But this is not intended to be that. This is really intended to be a list that's useful for maybe you've got a loved one or someone near and dear to you in your life who is a lifter, or maybe you are a lifter. Maybe this is just, maybe you're kind of shopping for yourself, or maybe you and that loved one, you and that that wife, that husband, maybe just that buddy, or setting up a gym together, and you need some ideas for what you might want in your gym, or just in your kind of bag of tools to take with you to the gym if you don't train at home. So I got this idea from Scott Wadsworth's video, the 12 Days of a Man's Christmas. His video is far better, far more interesting than this one will be. That's over at Essential Craftsman. I'll link to that below, but I thought, hey, this could be an interesting idea. People might appreciate that, might appreciate this. If you do, please let me know, put it in the comments, or if you got other questions, other things that you think, hey, I wonder about bumper plates, because we're not going to actually cover bumper plates in this one. Or I wonder about something else that, Phil didn't cover here. So with that in mind, let's begin. So we're going to start off with a couple stocking stuffers before we move on to the kind of the bigger ticket, interpret that as more expensive items, kind of the under the tree items, as it were. But let's start with some stocking stuffers. I think we're going to have 6 of each, but we'll see how this whole thing pans out. Number 1, wrist straps. All right, the wrist straps that I use are just some very basic Harbinger. It's called the Harbinger Red Line wrist straps. You can actually get them in a whole bunch of different colors of lines. These happen to be pink. The ones that I have at home that I train with in the garage don't have any lines. Actually, they're just they're like the USA flag. But you can get the typical ones in red. They're just it's an 18-inch wrist strap. We'll link to anything that we can link to below. We will, so you've got kind of a resource for where to go to shop for these things. But they're a basic 18-inch wrist strap. They do the job very well. You can use them for both regular strength training, so benching, pressing, squatting. But you can also use them. They're flexible enough that you can use them for Olympic weightlifting. So you can snatch with them, you can clean, you can jerk with them. So these would probably be my first choice for the average person just getting started, and they're still the ones that I train with today. I would recommend the Harbinger 18-inch wrist straps or something similar to it. Now, if you wanted something a little bit stiffer, well, for some of these items, I'll try to give a second option. It may not be an option that I have experience with, so I'll try to give a warning about that, or a disclaimer if at all possible. So, for example, if you wanted a stiffer option, I'd probably recommend, these are Rob's, one of our members. Thanks, Rob. These are some Pioneer wrist straps. I don't know if they're the Pioneer Ghost wrist straps or which ones they are. Maybe he'll let me know later. But I'd probably recommend something by Pioneer or SBD. We've got a number of members with Pioneer wraps or SBD wraps, and they're a pretty popular item. They're well constructed and they last for a long time. Number 2, the second day of a lifter's Christmas. Knee sleeves. Give your knees a present and get them a nice pair of knee sleeves. Don't go with that 3mm stuff, that 5mm thick stuff. I used to have a 5mm pair. Once I went to 7mm, I swore I would never go back, and that would be my recommendation to you. If you're going to get a pair of knee sleeves, get a pair of 7mm thick ones. You'll probably appreciate them sooner rather than later. These are the ones that I use. These are Ray-Ban, R-E-H-B-A-N-D. I think anything that's in 7mm by Ray-Ban, you're going to be in good shape. You'll like them. They should last you a long time. If you want a stiffer option, this belongs to one of our coaches, Dave. A 7mm option by Stoic, or Stoic, if you're Rob, one of our members, or by SBD will work real well. Also real popular options. Number 3, the third day of Christmas, chalk. You gotta have chalk. Now you might think that I'm endorsing Rogue chalk. I'm not. It's your basic magnesium carbonate. It's fine if you've already got it. Definitely use it. Definitely don't go out and get anything else. This was actually gifted to us. We're certainly going to use it, but when we are done with this, we will go back to what we have been getting, the best stuff out there. Man, it's great. It seems ridiculous to talk this fondly of chalk, but it's just the best stuff out there. It is spider chalk. It's dense. The block does not break. People who break chalk blocks should be shot. They should be shot with like a rubber band in the arm at close range, all right, just to drive this point across. Don't break up your chalk block. If you're one of those crazy people who would prefer the dust as opposed to the block, that's fine, but don't ruin it for everybody else. But spider chalk is amazing stuff. So if you're gonna get chalk for yourself, or you travel to a gym or something like that, it's your personal chalk, or I'd recommend if you're a gym owner, spider chalk is the way to go. It's a little bit more expensive, but man, it's the way to go. Number 4, the 4th day of Christmas, a book. If you've got a lifter in your life who is real interested in lifting, already lifts, kind of likes to nerd out on it, and they don't have this book already, the Bible of lifting, as it were, the blue book, as it is fondly referred to, for obvious reasons here, Starting Strength, Basic Barbell Training by Mark Rippetoe. It's a book, it's an organization, it's a method of teaching the lifts, it's a way of training. Certainly changed my life, is one of the major reasons that I do what I do. So I would strongly recommend this. Now, that being said, if you've got someone in your life who you would like to be interested in lifting, you've got a grandpa, you've got a grandma, a mom or a dad that you would really like to get stronger, and you know that coming from you, it might not get the job done, then I would strongly recommend the Barbell Prescription. Strength, it's technically titled Strength Training for Life After 40. That's the subtitle. I actually think it's a great book for anyone at any age. So if you're trying to, give a book to somebody and you're like, man, I really hope this person starts lifting, this might just be the book that does the trick. Really, especially in the first 1/3 of it, where Sullivan and Baker talk about the rationale for why it's so important to get stronger. So just great book. All right, the 5th day of Christmas, lifting straps for your heavy deadlifts, maybe your snatches, your rows. Now, the first that I'm going to recommend, this is not actually something that you go out and buy, at least you don't go buy it already made, is I'm going to recommend the lifting straps that we make. We don't sell them, you make them on your own. You go out and get some strap material, some climbing webbing. We'll link to the video below on how to make these, but this would actually be my first recommendation. They're very cheap to make. I've had this pair for since at least 2016, and they're going strong. They're just fine. This is actually what I would first recommend. If not that, then the second option that I'd probably recommend would be the So Easy, that's S-E-W, because they're sewn together. The So Easy straps by Iron Mind. Same type of strap as this, just in a kind of commercially made format. What you don't want to get is a cotton strap. So if you like the type of strap that has the loop sewn in on this end, where it kind of cinches up. This is not my favorite kind of strap. It's not usually the kind of strap that I recommend, but it works. It'll get the job done. But don't get a cotton. This particular one is cotton. Cotton will eventually tear. It will tear at the time that you least want it to tear. So if you want to get a pair like this, then Iron Mind makes a pair like that as well. They're called the Strong Enough straps. We'll link to those below. And I don't have any experience with them, but I would be interested, if I was looking for the type that had the loop in them, I'd be real interested in taking a look at the leather pair made by the Strength Co., made over there by Grant and the Strength Co. All right, the 6th day of Christmas, the last of our stocking stuffer items before we move on to the bigger items under the tree, and that is a timer. So if you are a loved one of a lifter and you wish, gosh, honey, I just wish you could make it through your workouts a little bit faster. Or maybe you're a new lifter and you know that you have a tendency to not rest long enough, so maybe you need a timer to make sure that you actually rest long enough. A timer is a great option. Now, there are some pretty sweet options out there on Amazon, and those can run intervals for your conditioning sessions and stuff like that. You can use it as just a plain old timer to time your rest periods. Got a lot of options for training. That being, and we'll link to some options like that below. That being said, this is actually the one that we have in our garage. Actually, I think this is the second one. This is the one that's up on our fridge. But we have another one just like this on our rack in our garage. It's a magnetic kitchen timer. Very basic. Has a count up feature. That's what I usually set it to. So we just treat it as a steadily running stopwatch. So I'll use it to time my rest periods. You can also use it as a timer that counts down if you prefer to use it that way. But this is a real handy thing. Obviously, if you're going somewhere to train, you're not training at home, you can easily put this in your gym bag, take it with you. Get a very manly color like pink. That's what I would recommend. But just a real useful tool to have. On the 7th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me lifting shoes. So get a pair. Remember, we're moving on to the bigger ticket items here, the under the tree items, as it were. Lifting shoes. Hugely important piece of training equipment. One of the top 6. We're covering in the last 6. So anyway, these are the lifting shoes that I have. These are the Nike Romaleos 2, a great shoe. You can probably still find a couple pairs here and there on eBay, but they're a very popular shoe. They don't make them anymore, and because of that, they're pretty hard to find anywhere, even used. These were $200 new. Years and years ago, I got mine used on eBay in very good condition for about $110. So anytime you're looking for lifting shoes, if you're looking to save yourself a little bit of money, look for some used ones. A lot of times these are coming from people who tried it out, decided that they weren't willing to stick with it or whatever, and you might find yourself a pair of fairly, new shoes, relatively speaking. These were in great shape. Now, I would recommend, so these are the shoes that I still use. I've had them since 2016, so bear in mind a good pair of lifting shoes is going to last you a long time. Maybe 2017, actually. Anyway, this is the current version. These are my wife's shoes. These are the Romaleos 4. If I was going to get a pair of shoes right now, if I was going to get a pair of shoes for someone right now, this would probably be my first choice. Well, this would definitely be my first choice. Certainly if I was shopping for myself, I would go for the Romaleos 4. So I've heard real good things about them. My wife likes them, and she still has her old 2s, and they compare very favorably to the 2s. Now, if I wasn't going to get these, we're also going to cover a shoe I would not recommend, that I used to recommend, but I don't anymore. Another shoe that would be a real solid option is either the VS Athletics lifting shoe or the DeWin lifting shoe. Both of these can be had, like I said, the Nikes, these Romaleos 4 are around $200 new. These are going to be more around between like $95 and $100. So a little bit cheaper of an option, but still a very, very solid shoe. I've trained in, I think, both of these actually when I didn't have my shoes with me. And I think they actually contract with the same sole manufacturer, so you're looking at nearly the same shoe. So both of these are good options. And then the one option that's really readily available, but I wouldn't recommend it anymore. Now, it's still a better option than not having a lifting shoe, but it's not, since if you're shopping for new shoes, don't go get this one. If you already have it, great, keep training on it as long as you want to, but if you're shopping for new shoes, I'm not going to recommend this one, and that is the Adidas Power Lift. It's very, very readily available. You can get it a whole bunch of color options, so that's great, but the sole is just, and you can see, I don't know if you can see this very well, but you can see, and that's just my thumb pushing in on that. It can make an indentation in that, and that should not be able to happen with a lifting shoe. It's still far more sturdy than a regular shoe, still a better option than like a Chuck or something like that. I've seen people squat 500 pounds plus in these. But if you're shopping for new shoes, I wouldn't recommend these. All right, the 8th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a bench. So with some of these kind of bigger items, these are going to be more suited towards somebody who is setting up a home gym, something like that. Because obviously, if you're at a commercial gym, you're not buying your own bench, you're not bringing one with you. But all of our benches here at Testify are from Rogue Fitness. They're their basic flat bench. They had like a version 1 and a version 1.2, and we've got a combination of them, and they are fine. They're certainly fine enough that we're not going to replace them. That being said, there are better options out there in terms of grip. And so, although I don't have personal experience with the bench that I'm about to recommend, I do have some online clients who have this bench and they like it, and I've seen it well enough from a distance that if I was going to get a bench, it's probably the bench that I would get now, and that is I think it's the FB3000. It's the Rep Fitness flat bench, specifically because of the surface. It's got a real grippy surface. So that's probably the one that I would recommend right now. For the 9th day of Christmas, coaching. Get yourself a coach. I would strongly recommend it. This is not intended to be self-serving. You don't have to hire me or hire one of us at Testify Strength and Conditioning here in Omaha. Yes, we do online coaching and we'd love to work with you, but somewhere I would strongly recommend that you find yourself a starting strength coach specifically and get in touch with him, get in touch with her. If you haven't had a coach, it will make a world of difference in the progress that you are able to make. Remember, athletes have coaches. You're lifting, you are an athlete. You're going to like having a coach. It's going to help you make progress. If you want to get in touch with us, we'll put the link to that below. But again, this is not intended to be the sales pitch. Just find yourself a good coach. All right, these last 3 items, days 10 and 11 and 12, are kind of the big 3 items for setting up your own gym, whether you're setting it up in your basement or your garage or something like that. And these are going to be in the order of importance. So the last thing that I'm going to give you is the most important thing, the thing that I would recommend being the most picky about. So day 10, not the last thing obviously, would be the rack that you're going to get. Now the rack that I would easily recommend is the R3 from Rogue Fitness. It is still, we have them throughout the gym. It is still my favorite rack by a long shot. It's got 2x3 metal. In fact, what I'm going to specifically recommend is don't get, and again, this is a champagne problem. If I already had this, I wouldn't get rid of it. But I'm going to recommend that if you're going out to buy a rack, in other words, you don't already have one, then I'm going to recommend don't get anything that's 3 inches wide. Now the Rogue, the R3 is 2x3, so the uprights are 3 inches deep, but they are only 2 inches wide, which means you've got more room in between. You've got basically the most amount of room that you're going to get in between the uprights. So if you've got stiff shoulders, stuff like that, your hands can fit, better in between the uprights. And likewise, you have the kind of the most amount of room that you're ever going to have on any rack outside the uprights between the plates. So when you go back in to rack it, you're not going to rattle things around. Again, having a one that's the 3x3 uprights are real popular right now, but you're just paying for more material that you don't really need. In fact, I was on the phone with Rogue a number of years ago, and I was asking about how sturdy, because the 3x3 stuff was starting to come out a lot more commonly. I said, well, how sturdy is the R3 with the 2x3? And they said, as the guy on the phone said, each upright is rated for 10,000 pounds. Now let's just assume that I am either an idiot or hard of hearing, both of which are possible here, folks. But let's just assume that. Let's assume that it's not each upright is 10,000 pounds, but just that the whole rack is 10,000 pounds. Either way, your lift is going to be just fine on that rack. And actually, the weakest link, he said, in the whole thing, and this will not come as a surprise to you, to those of you who know anything about racks, the weakest link in the whole thing is actually the J hooks on there, and each of those are rated at 1,000 pounds. So in terms of sturdiness, don't assume that you need a 3x3 one. But I would recommend, if you've got the ability, to anchor it into the floor, and then you can learn how to do that if you don't. And if you don't know how, let us know. Maybe we'll do a video on that. But I would recommend the R3 rack by Rogue. That would be my first recommendation. If you want some ideas for squat stands or something where you're not going to anchor it to the floor, let me know. Let us know in the comments. I'll provide some recommendations there. Now, the R3 by Rogue, Rogue's gotten real popular. They have the ability to raise their prices accordingly. Good for them. If you want kind of a nice knockoff of this, and hopefully I'm not doing Titan a disservice by saying this, but Titan's done a wonderful job of mimicking a lot of things that Rogue has made. And so the Titan T3, you'll notice the naming is pretty darn similar. The Titan T3 is a pretty reasonable knockoff. So if you wanted to get kind of a budget version of that rack, the Titan T3 is the option that I'd go with. The 11th day of Christmas, plates. Yep, I'm going to put plates as a higher priority than a rack. I'd be willing to train actually on a fairly cheap rack as long as I knew that it was sturdy enough. In fact, there are some budget items on Amazon that if I had to get, I would rather get that than go for cheap plates, because I want my plates to be accurate, I want them to fit well on the bar, and I want them to be consistent. And so we did a video on this. It actually came out last week. We'll link to that below. But easily, hands down, the plates, the metal plates that I'm going to recommend are the plates by Grant over at the Strength Co. They're the best plates out there right now. They're made in the USA. They are very accurate. They are very precise. They're beautiful looking. These are the plates that you will hand down to your children, but you will not hand them down to your children until you are dead and in the grave, because you are going to be training until then. So that's the type of plates that I would recommend. If you want recommendations on bumper plates, let us know. I'll try to answer that in the comments, or maybe we'll make a video about it if there's enough people asking. And last but not least, certainly not least, the number one place to not skimp on what you're getting for you or for your loved one would be the barbell. And the barbell that I'm going to recommend, and quite frankly, there are a lot of pretty solid options out there. But if I could get one barbell for myself or for my wife, this is the bar that I would get. It's the Starting Strength bar. I'm a Starting Strength coach. We are a Starting Strength affiliate gym, but I don't make any money for saying this. I would recommend the Starting Strength bar by Texas Power Bars. We'll link to that below. We don't even make any money off of the link. This is just easily the bar that I would recommend. It's a bare steel bar. I like bare steel. I also like the Cerakote black zinc. I'm actually not all that picky about the coatings. The bare steel does feel pretty amazing in the hands. It does require a little bit more upkeep, but it's not terrible. But specifically, a couple nice things here. It's got the dual knurl marks, which is nice. So it's got the powerlifting marks and it's got the weightlifting marks, so you can use it for both. It rotates well enough to use it for both, but it doesn't rotate so crazy well that it starts to feel unstable in the hand, on a bench or something like that. But it certainly rotates well enough to train the Olympic lift. So it's a great multi-purpose bar, and it's 28.5 millimeters, which is real nice in the hands. Just a standard weightlifting bar, IWF specs, is going to be 28 millimeters. Your typical powerlifting bars are going to be 28.5 or 29 millimeters. So this does a real good job of just kind of striking the middle of the road. Here at Testify, we've basically got three types of bars. We've got 6 Ohio Power Bars by Rogue. We bought 5 and another one was gifted to us. We've got 5 B&R bars, Bergner and Ripito bars. Those two bars are both 29 millimeter bars. The Ohio Power Bar has a real aggressive knurl. The B&R bar has a moderate knurl. Both great bars. My wife and I have the B&R bars at home. That's because they didn't have the Starting Strength bar. So anyway, 6 Ohio Power Bars, 5 B&R bars, and then 5 of these. Once these started coming out, we have bought these and we would just continue to buy these. So this is what I'd recommend for a barbell. I hope this was useful to you as you're doing your holiday shopping or you're shopping at any other time of the year. As always, we hope this helps you get stronger and live better. But more importantly, I hope that you have a Merry Christmas as we get closer and closer to celebrating the birth of our Savior, and a Happy New Year, and God bless.